Continuing on from the previous video, we went from Sveti Nicole to the town of Veles. Now we're going from Veles to Demir Kapija. Probably pronouncing that wrong, forgive me. The absolute worst part about Veles was that I didn't have enough time to stay there overnight or even multiple days. I really liked Veles. There was just something about it. There's certain places that you just go to and they have a good feel to it. And Veles is one of those places. So the worst part about Veles was leaving. I would be lying if I said that at some point later I didn't look up real estate in Veles, trying to see how much houses cost. I found some, couldn't afford them, but whatever. I definitely wish to go back to Veles at some point and spend at least a week there. I really liked it. And the descent into Veles was just epic. Probably one of the best descents I've had on this whole trip. I may have enjoyed myself in Veles a little too much. I had 3 orders of shivapi at this little restaurant, and it was unbelievable. Although I gave half of one of those orders to a pregnant street dog, and I probably had about 4 beers, which made the rest of this ride quite daunting. The first part, while the beers were still in me and active, no problem at all, but once that sort of wore off and I got into the lethargy stage of drinking, it made the ride really tough. But leaving Veles for quite a while, it was in this really nice valley. The city itself is in quite a valley, and it was lush and green. Riding along the river, it was absolutely beautiful conditions for riding. Eventually, it sort of transitioned from this lush valley into more of like the plains. And the plains really remind me of where I live in Colorado. I don't live quite up in the mountains, and I don't live on the western slope where there's, by Utah. I live on the plains side of it, and this area of Macedonia reminds me so much of the Front Range of Colorado. The plants look the same. It was like the same colors, this wide open blue sky, mountains to one side of you. It really reminded me of home, and I really loved this area of Macedonia. It was so nice. It was so beautiful. As the time went on, the road conditions sort of degraded, and it wasn't so much that the roads were just bad. They were actively doing construction on them, and it makes sense because honestly the roads in Macedonia are nicer than most of the roads in America. They really put an emphasis on critical infrastructure, and it shows. But it was a bit difficult to ride on. I stopped off at a gas station, got some more water, not gonna lie, had 2 more beers, and then continued on the ride. And at this part of it, it was more of like a dirt road, which is whatever. I don't ride what you would consider a traditional road bike. I ride sort of what they now call a gravel bike, but is more set up road-wise. So I have street tires, but they're 40 millimeter. They're much wider than what you would see on a traditional road bike. A lot of my components are more, road bike based, but I have like beefier carbon forks, and I have all the bosses to mount all the racks and frames and everything. So this really came in handy on some of these rougher and more gravelly roads. At some point, I found what I thought was an abandoned factory until I got a little bit closer up to it and saw that there was actually people there. So I decided to turn back and not explore the factory that looks abandoned but actually wasn't. For quite a while, it was a really, really nice, meandering ride through the Macedonian plains. Blue sky, partly cloudy. It was absolutely lovely ride. There was nothing to complain about. It was low traffic road, and for the most part, except for the construction, the road was really nice. The scenery was great. It was just a beautiful day to go riding. And then all of a sudden it started to feel really hard to pedal. I couldn't really figure out why. Well, I got my second flat tire of the whole trip. So far I'd gone through Hungary, Serbia, no flats. Got my first flat crossing the border of Serbia and Hungary. And then 2 days later, got another flat. And on car tires or vehicle tires, there's wire tread in them, like metal wires in there. So when they blow out, little shards of these wires can come out. I happened to run over one of those just perfectly for it to just slip right in my tire and got a flat, but it is what it is. Getting the flat was kind of a pain in the ass because to fix it, one, I have to take all my bags off to take the back wheel off, and it's just a minor inconvenience, but my CO2 cartridges that I was carrying didn't really have enough in them to get me to the pressure that I prefer to be at. It gets me to about 50 psi, and I usually ride around 80, especially with the bags on there. So one, there was the time it took to do the process of changing the tube, and then I was riding on a much lower pressure, which I don't know, it's one of my big things on a bike is correct tire pressure, and it really bugs me when I don't have the correct tire pressure. And the now 6 beers that I've had are really starting to wear off, so I'm dragging ass. It's really sluggish and unmotivated. eventually get to another town, and I find another gas station, and the European air pumps at the gas stations, at least this one, were really odd. You had to like plug in the PSI you wanted it to get at and then hook it up, but since it was for car tires, it really didn't go up to a high enough pressure, and there wasn't like a manual override, so that was a bit frustrating. At least in America, they just turn you loose with an air thing, and if you want to overfill your tires and blow them up, well, you're free to do so. Apparently that's not the case in this little town in Macedonia. Luckily at this point, I was about 8 miles from my destination, and it was either mostly flat or a minor descent towards Demir Kapija. So it was just suck it up, get it done, and get some dinner. So the final push, it was a little bit more of the same as far as the scenery. It was, nice plains, but as I got a bit closer, it started to get more and more lush. Once I finally got to my destination, found a little cafe, got some food, may have had another beer or two, and refueled and just soaked in how unbelievable this country is. If you are going to Europe and you've never considered Macedonia before, it is so worth it. This is just an unbelievable chunk of land. I really enjoyed it. I ate my food, went to my room. The hotel I got was absolutely amazing, and I think it was only like $30 US a night. It's absolutely epic. So that's all I got in this one, and next one we will go from Demir Kapija to Stardoran, something like that, but it's really close to the Greek border, and we're almost done with the ride. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.